This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everyone, to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski. On today's show, could Vince McMahon be coming back to wrestling? You cannot say this person's name on WWE TV as of right now. And this AEW star plans to retire in about 18 months. That and much, much more as we take a look around the wrestling world and break everything down. This is your AEW Dynasty Prediction Show. Doing it with me, as always, helping me sort through all of the mess and give all of the correct answers. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Well, we learned a quick lesson. We ain't messing with Haku and Tamatonga. Get the hell out of here. If you are on the wrong side of them, you could be left a bloody mess. It was a good week of wrestling, lots of intrigue, lots of unfortunate news for some performers. We forgot that after WrestleMania, WWE kind of does a reset and lets go of some interesting names. A former world champion. I'm sure you'll get to that later on. But cuz, what are we talking about this week? I can't wait to preview AEW. They kind of are starting to kind of build their way back up after a disastrous month of March and April. So let's see how the pay-per-view delivers. But with WWE, a lot of interesting stuff has started to happen. New stories are starting to emerge. And unfortunately, the week started off with some bad news.
Yeah, a little bit of a bummer. We started the week with Rhea Ripley having to vacate her title due to what's being called an AC joint injury. It sounds like she's going to be out multiple months, maybe 3, possibly 6. And it was announced that there's going to be a new champion. Now, coming out of Monday, we really didn't know how they were going to do this. We didn't know what they were going to do. And on Friday night, it was announced that they're going to crown a new women's champ on Monday Night Raw after completing a battle royal. So I just wanted to have a little bit of fun with you. I wanted to do a little bit of creative booking because I feel like Rhea Ripley is incredibly important. And for somebody to step in and take her place, you're going to have to be important yourself. So how would you book this? Who would be your new female champion coming out of this Royal Rumble?
Yeah, it's a battle royal, lots of intriguing names. Many people would naturally assume it would be Liv Morgan because she's the one that took out Rhea Ripley. I think that it's a natural feud. But to me, I think it's going to be Liv Morgan. It makes sense. It would allow for Rhea to come back and be ultimately pissed to take it off of her. But I would book it as Nia Jax to win it. The crowd would go nuclear.
Ooh.
The crowd would be pissed. You could have her establish her dominance, and then when Rhea comes back, she goes right through Nia Jax and then can get her revenge on Liv Morgan. You kind of build it up a little bit. But that's how I would do it, but I could see Liv Morgan kind of taking over and being like, the story writes itself. You injured me, and I injured you, and the story that's going to be told when they fight each other, oh my God, it's written, it's set in stone, and many people are going to clamor for it. I mean, I couldn't believe Liv Morgan said, "Doesn't anybody care about me?" And she took me out for damn near 9 months. Beautifully ties into a feud that's going to be wild. But that just sucks for Rhea. A backstage, maybe she was injured before, but the backstage getting her shoulder thrown. I mean, these backstage things are aggressive. You got to kind of have some padding. You got to, for it to be that, the blunt force to be that traumatic that she pops her AC joint. The name of the game is to protect each other and not to throw each other into walls that have no stiffness, that have no give. So it just sucks because you could see how upset she was. She was trying to hide it while mixing it into the storyline. And the one that the picture that got me was when she was backstage with Triple H. You could kind of just sense the devastation of, man, I was a champion for a year and I didn't get to lose it. So it just sucks all the way around when a wrestler of her caliber gets hurt.
Yeah, it's not good. And for a while now, we've talked about how important she is to this roster. We talked about how good her title run has been, and coming off the heels of what took place at WrestleMania, where I really feel like she got a victory that actually meant something. as a champion. I thought this was one of those establishing wins that she got over Becky Lynch. This is one of those things that she could really use to kind of help catapult herself even further and help solidify this title run, only to have it, nights later come undone when she separates her shoulder, when she's attacked by Liv Morgan. Now, look, I like your Nia Jax pick. I think that is an interesting pick, but I am going to still stick with Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan has this story with Rhea Ripley, right? They have this back and forth going on. With Liv Morgan, you could put it on her. Crowd seems to still really like her. It'll be interesting to see what the reaction is, because she really hasn't. She came out for this little dust up that they had, but the crowd could turn on her. So if the crowd turns on her, you let the crowd decide what she's going to be. If the crowd turns on her, she goes heel. If the crowd's going to support her and champion her, then she stays face. And then when Rhea comes back, they can have their altercation. Or what you do is you have her start off as a face, and you have her slowly evolve into a heel. So when Rhea is healthy again, Rhea can come back as a baby face, and you could totally reinvent Rhea Ripley's character, and Rhea could take that title back off of her. There's a lot of interesting things you could do here. I feel like WWE got a little bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card, because not really sure what they were going to do with Rhea Ripley. I'm not really sure if they knew what they were going to do with Rhea Ripley. And this right here kind of allows them to hit the reset button. And if they want to bring her back and do something interesting with Rhea, they can do that. If they want to go in a short-term direction with somebody else, they can do that. If there are different things that they want to figure out, they've got the opportunity to do all of that right now. As of right now, though, going into Monday Night Raw, I'm putting the belt on Liv Morgan. She would be my new champion. And then when Rhea's healthy enough to come back, we could do a brand new story with those two, and it could be really, really interesting. You brought up something when we opened. You brought up Tama Tonga, and something that I said out loud on Friday night while watching SmackDown. I said, I really like the way they're presenting Tama Tonga. I really like this character. He seems almost unhinged at times. He seems to sometimes get those crazy eyes. He's got crazy dark eyes, like massive, looks like massive pupils, right? And he just kind of looks like he gets. If you've ever seen somebody with the crazy eyes, where like they go through like a psychotic moment, he kind of gets that. He looked like that when he was swinging that chair around, and basically Solo Sikoa had to take it off of him. He has this look, he has this presence, he has this aura. Busting open Kevin Owens, I think, was fantastic. Basically dismantling Jimmy last week, and then this week you come back and you bust Kevin Owens open and you totally wipe out and take out Kevin Owens. The way they are presenting Tama Tonga has been absolutely fantastic. The way Solo is carrying himself is fantastic. I love this for Solo Sikoa, and I love this for Tama Tonga. What are your thoughts on the way Tama Tonga has been presented thus far? And what do you think the ceiling is for Solo Sikoa?
Oh, the sky's the limit. Solo Sikoa. Everyone now wants Roman Reigns to come right back just to see how he's reacting to all this. It's a more aggressive bloodline. It's a more Solo's taken the reins and been like, look, I've sat back and watched Roman kind of use his voice to kind of let his ego get out of hand. Now it's business. We go in the ring and we hurt people. If we don't get what we want, we go out there and we destroy people. The sight of Kevin Owens laying there in the ring, dude, I was scared. I was like, oh my God, Tama Tonga looks like a rabid pit bull. And the way he moved so fast to get on top of Kevin Owens, it was scary. It harkened back to Haku, the guy that was super scary and that you didn't want to mess with. So Tama Tonga, look, it's been great the last week because all the wrestling world has been talking about him, the work he's did in New Japan, the matches you can watch. Bully Ray talked about training him and what he was all about in the thing. And of course, you can't disregard the Bullet Club. When Tama Tonga is in one of the greatest factions in the history of the world, you go and pay attention and you do your research. So Tama Tonga was a name that Carl Anderson texted to Triple H and said, get this guy. And if he's already got that respect from the boys, then, oh my God, and you insert him in the bloodline, it's a perfect fit. It's the muscle of the bloodline. And oh my goodness, they're going after their prey, and Kevin Owens was the first target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's unreal. He's done such a good job through the course of his career, whether it was in New Japan or very early on here in WWE. Absolutely fantastic. It sounds like they might be bringing his brother Hikuleo over at some point. So the Bloodline faction will be getting bigger. This whole, we're going to call it the Civil War series with the Bloodline, It is going to be a very interesting story, and these new additions, I think, are going to be absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait. Something that I don't know if you can wait for. I don't know if I can wait for it either. It's AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes. This is going to be the challenge for Cody Rhodes, his first one. This is going to take place at Backlash, which will be the next pay-per-view coming up. Was this the best choice? Because I think you've got this great heel persona in AJ Styles right now going up against the whitest of white meat baby faces in Cody Rhodes. Or would you have rather have seen LA Knight being able to challenge Cody Rhodes?
No, I think it was perfect. I mean, I can't wait to see it. I think that this is the wrestling fans' wrestling match that everybody's going to want to see. It sucks because AJ Styles is going to lose, but in the end, this is one in which you're going to be like, what are these two going to do? How are they going to tell their story? And AJ Styles is going to be on the brink of winning, and Cody Rhodes is going to overcome. They're going to tell a great story, and there's going to be some inside references. There's going to be stuff that the marks are going to understand. And I know it's
going to be some Bullet Club stuff.
Yes, Bullet Club.
Definitely going to be some Bullet Club stuff.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. And I just think that it's the match I want to see. It's natural wrestling, heel versus face. Look, with LA Knight, it does lend to the question of what do you do with him, but you just got to get him a title that is, probably the U.S. title off of Logan Paul, which will be fair at SummerSlam. I think that's a perfect spot to give the respect to LA Knight. But right now, I think that that's really good too, in that LA Knight got the biggest win at WrestleMania, and AJ Styles gets an opportunity because, people are seeing that, and he said that maybe his time is coming to a close. Probably the time in between the regular matches he's going to have is going to grow because he's older, and the man has been flipping around for damn near 25 years. And isn't it crazy? He's been now in WWE a good 8-9 years. So it is crazy to think about the fact that AJ Styles is really a treasure in the wrestling business, and to see performances like this that he's going to have, I can't wait to see it. But pay attention because you never know what's going to be left for AJ Styles. But this run that he's currently got is cool. I'm okay with the new music. I liked his old one better, but this a more aggressive version is one in which you can get behind, and you can see that he's a realistic heel that can get you upset in what he does. So maybe a beatdown after. I think what you need for AJ Styles is you got to continue the heel character. He's going to lose, but then he gets the opportunity maybe with Carl Anderson and his boys to whoop Cody's ass afterwards. Maybe you reestablish the group and you actually let them do stuff instead of this stop and start. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think the big thing coming out of this, right? I like that AJ Styles got the win. I like that AJ Styles will be challenging Cody Rhodes. But like you said, now what do you do with LA Knight? I was hoping that there would be something that would come out of this match between AJ Styles and LA Knight that would give us a bit of a clearer direction for LA Knight, because I don't really know what you do with him now.
Right.
He's got all the charisma in the world. The crowd loves him. He is basically your number 2 babyface, maybe your number 3 babyface, depending on where you've got Jey Uso ranked. But he's one of those top guys. But there's like no natural storyline right now. You're going to have to somehow manufacture something.
Unfortunately, do you think that he's just now the next pawn in the Bloodline story where he gets his ass beat by Tama Tonga? They have a couple matches, but he loses, and he's got to go back to the drawing board and eventually a tag match from now before SummerSlam with him and Kevin Owens versus Solo. And I don't see any wins because the badass heels are there. So it kind of lends to maybe Logan Paul calling out LA Knight for being a loser. You just have LA Knight lose a couple feuds, and then LA Knight then Logan Paul, you could see a promo where he's like, I'm here on SmackDown. Where's the competition? There's nobody here with any charisma. There's nobody here that seems like can step in the ring with me and handle business. And then you just have LA Knight come out, and then you just set it up. You know what I mean? But it feels like that. In some sense, LA Knight is a big star, that a couple losses in these feuds to AJ Styles, to Tama Tonga and Solo, getting on the back end of that, getting his ass whooped a couple times, maybe it's not a bad thing, kind of like building up his, oh my God, the feeling of feeling sorry for the guy, and then he rises back up, because he had a nice ride in 23. It's kind of taken a dip a little bit. where now you have other bigger baby faces, but LA Knight, I think in the back half of 24 is going to get rewarded. The man's popular, and I just think that he's got to have, I thought he had his best match at WrestleMania. I thought that he's doing good things. He'll just keep doing the things that he's got to do to get to the next level. But you never know. Maybe you have a heel turn. You never know. Maybe the next step is a heel turn, and you get a run against Cody Rhodes as a nasty LA Knight. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see which way the LA Knight goes after these next couple months.
Yeah, this might be just like with the women's tag or with the women's championship picture on Monday Night Raw. This might be a spot where maybe you're at a bit of a reset point with LA Knight. Yeah. Maybe now you can kind of do something different. His character hasn't gotten stale, which is always good, trying to be ahead of that curve. Maybe, like you said, maybe you turn him heel. Maybe you turn him into more of this tweener gray character where he's a little bit heel, a little bit face. You've got some options now that you could do some stuff with LA Knight. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I do want to get your perspective. We have new tag team titles for both brands, for Monday Night Raw and for SmackDown. I want to know which set of titles you liked better, and what were your overall thoughts on the titles themselves. R-Truth and Miz got gifted theirs, and then you had A-Town Down Under get gifted theirs. What were your thoughts? These are two completely different looking tag belts, sets of tag belts, and they're interesting in their own unique ways. What were your thoughts on these?
Cuz, keep me off the ledge from hitting purchase. Please. The SmackDown titles harken back to the old titles. They were beautiful. At first, I was like, the ones on Raw kind of remind you of the belt in Rocky where it's circular. Not a fan. I was just like, it's new, it's redesigned. And I'm obviously I'm a Spartan, so I have the old tag belts, so I love those. I wasn't really too much, I didn't have a strong negative opinion on that belt, but when they go new, oh my God, the ones on SmackDown, when it came across the screen, I was like, oh my God, the lineage, the story. It reminded me of when the Hart Foundation had it, Demolition, the Rockers. It just has the classic feel with a modern look, which is kind of the way in which these companies are doing things. Oh my God. But the one that you can buy is different. I love the color, the dull shine a little bit of the tag, but it was beautiful. And then to have A-Town Down Under disrespect Triple H in the ring was classic. The heels doing heel things, even to the COO, the chief, the CCO. Oh my God, it was a beautiful segment. Seeing Triple H walk down this week to kind of reset things was great. His interaction with the fans, how much he's loved. I love that he's being called Paul Triple H. Oh, it was just, when it came out, it's to me, it's night and day. A much different, two different belts distinctly, but the SmackDown ones are much more pretty, much more long lasting, that you don't got to change for decades, in my opinion. The ones on Raw, it's kind of crazy that the word world champion kind of has belts that aren't as like great. Even though the Ric Flair world title has always meant something, but the world title on Raw and the world title on the tag belts kind of just seem a little less than the WWE Tag Champs and the WWE belt, which maybe is there for a reason. But hey, these tag teams got to do what they can to elevate the division and keep it moving forward. But oh my God, SmackDown, because they have the best belts in the company.
Yeah, I'll agree with you 110%. I was blown away by the ones on SmackDown. The Raw ones, I think they look a little comical. I get what you're trying to do. I get what you're trying to do, right? You kind of want to have some tie into the actual championship belt. Everything kind of looks almost the same, right? There's subtle nuances that are a little bit different, but everything for the most part looks very similar. With these tag belts, I felt on Raw, I felt like it was kind of like, these are like something that like a kid would wear when they're having their backyard wrestling matches going on, The ones on SmackDown, like you said, they're timeless. They're classic. The ones on SmackDown, when I seen those, I was like, whoa. I was like, those are nice. My reaction to the ones on Raw, I was kind of like, eh. Now, I thought the way R-Truth and Miz handled that situation was great. I thought that was funny. When R-Truth called Triple H Tommaso Ciampa, and then when Tommaso Ciampa came down, he was like, see, there's Triple H. I thought that was great. I thought R-Truth is so funny. He's great. I thought that was really, really good. And you're right, the A-Town Down Under doing heel things. You got Grayson Waller and Austin Theory calling Triple H out and basically completely disrespecting him. Thought it was a really good touch. It was actually really fantastic. Was there anything else from Monday Night Raw that you wanted to touch on before we transitioned into what we got from Dynamite this week for a go-home show?
The feuds that are happening are great. I think that you just get a sense that, oh my God, they actually made Chad Gable into a legitimate heel by turning on Sami Zayn. I thought that the camera shots were beautiful with Jey Uso transitioning to Sami Zayn. It was really cinema. You have Sami Zayn get their love and respect that he deserves. Many are arguing online, and I can't disagree, that's one of the greatest television entrances of all time. Going through the stands, throwing the garbage can. I thought it was funny that, because you ask yourself, what would I do if I see Jey Uso walking back to the back? Am I going to mark out and have him push me? I thought that was funny, that the fan got pushed out of the way, and then he transitions to Sami Zayn, who's hearkening back to, man, I stood here 25 years ago as a wrestling fan. And then he comes out, it was just, oh. And then Chad Gable disrespects Sami Zayn, and that's kind of how you elevate a guy after a loss, is you just flip him. Because going into the match, it was about respect and two guys that, hey, I want to give you an opportunity, but then Chad Gable flips and is now snapping because of the fact that he lost. It's perfect. And you literally could see the transformation of Chad Gable into a more believable, ripped guy. Like, he went from the hokey thank you to I'm not sitting here taking anybody's shit, and he looks believable. So Triple H has done what we've said that all these companies got to do, is give some of these guys realistic characters and stories, and now you have a lot of the mid-card, the tags, they literally, it's not rocket science, because they literally have given guys in the mid-card stories, and they're relevant, they're important, they're good, and they're believable because they've been there for so long. So the investment made for a lot of these guys has paid off because they've been on television, we've seen them, and now they're getting stories. Oh, my goodness. Now, go ahead, Sami Zayn, whoop Chad Gable's ass. Let's see how they tell this story.
Yeah, this is a really nice way to do a lot of good work with a guy like Chad Gable. Chad Gable, everybody kind of felt for a while that he was more deserving than Sami Zayn for that Intercontinental title shot at WrestleMania. This is a good way to kind of pivot off of that. You told a bit of a story that kind of bridged that gap. You got him involved with Sami Zayn, and now coming out of it, he is challenging Sami Zayn, and he gets a character refresh. So it is nice to see Triple H doing these things and giving these guys these opportunities. I think you're right. Fantastic entrance by Sami Zayn, and on top of that, fantastic development for a guy like Chad Gable. I want to transition over to AEW. I want to get what you thought about Dynamite's go-home show. So Dynamite, obviously AEW's A show. Dynamite's the big show, the big draw. And this was their go-home show for a brand new pay-per-view being called Dynasty. Dynasty has a jam-packed card. It's got a lot of what appears to be really, really good matches. What was your thought overall as far as a go-home show goes?
Look, it's something that the stories have been told, but they're not, other than Samoa Joe's story with Swerve, I feel like not enough has been given to make it an investment of time. Clearly, the best match is going to be Samoa Joe taking on Swerve. Look, AEW kind of has been highlighting stuff that's unrelated to the pay-per-view. Look, Jon Moxley winning the IWGP title was great. I thought that his promo was raw, but I tell myself this. AEW is a show that is starting to understand now, okay, where the stories need to go, but the way they're executing it is not to the level yet that they could be. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like falling short of potential. And outside of the main event, I would say that you did good with Thunder Rosa in regards to giving her and highlighting her a little bit more. But with AEW, I just think that because you have some of the stars not available, that the ones that people care about to a high degree, it's just a little tougher to get into in my mind. But I stayed with it, I watched it, and I said to myself, okay, how does this company get to the next step out of this phase of what they got going on? The problem is that I want to be invested in the FTR Young Bucks situation, but it kind of has the feeling of like, okay, I want to get beyond. Basically, to me, it's this pay-per-view is a transitional pay-per-view where I want to see what happens after the pay-per-view. Who shows up to help the Young Bucks? What's going to happen after these matches happen? And I think that's fair that you got the next step. But in my mind, I just think that for this pay-per-view, my interest level is not as high as it could be. My interest level is going to be what happens after the pay-per-view and how they set it up going forward. Because we've seen the Young Bucks versus FTR. We've seen some of these situations before. So to me, it's just one of those things where I'm definitely, as a fan, want to see, because AEW delivers on the matches, but the build-ups I think could have been better.
Yeah, as a product as a whole with AEW, I'm pretty checked out right now. I'm not really interested in a whole lot of anything. I think looking over this card, there are maybe 2 matches that I'm interested in, and really it's only one match from bell to bell that I'm really interested in. That's the Will Ospreay Bryan Danielson match. I think that one's going to be orgasmic. But the Joe Swerve match, I'm more interested in the ending of that, not so much everything that takes place in the middle. I don't really necessarily care about that. I'm just curious who wins that match, because it's going to tell you kind of where this company's going and what they're looking to do. I think as far as the product on television and the product to get you invested, you want to put down $50-$60 for a pay-per-view or buy a streaming service where you can watch this pay-per-view. I don't think they're giving you enough during the week. I don't think they're giving you enough on their show to where you're like, I'm invested in this. I've got to see this. The whole point of your weekly television show is to draw the viewer in and get them hooked to where they're like, I have to see this match. I have to know how this ends. I don't want to have to wait until Wednesday. I don't want to have to wait until Monday morning to find out how and who won this match and what took place. I want to know what goes on right now. And I don't think they do a good enough job of anything remotely close to getting you that interested, where you're like, inflation's through the roof. Groceries are now costing 8 times as much as they did 2 years ago. I'm still going to reach into my pocket. I'm going to pull that 50 spot out, and I'm going to put it on this pay-per-view. Like, it just doesn't do that. It doesn't give you that. I thought the Jon Moxley promo to open, I actually thought it was fantastic. I thought that was the way you do a promo when you want to highlight your company. Not what you did with Edge 2 weeks ago, not what you did last week with the Young Bucks in the CM Punk video. That's not what you do. You do what Jon Moxley did. Jon Moxley came out and basically cut a promo where he put AEW over. He put himself over. He put over one of the best belts in all of wrestling, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship belt. And you told a story that way. He got you interested in Powerhouse Hobbs for a little bit, got you a little bit interested in where they might go with the Don Callis family. Now, I'm not completely invested in that, not at all. It was one promo, and this is going to take place after this pay-per-view. This whole entire show was building towards this pay-per-view, except for this one moment that opened the show. But Jon Moxley is a pro's pro. Jon Moxley gets the psychology of wrestling and gets how to deliver this promo and goes out there and does it and executes it to perfection. So that to me was probably the highlight of this program. That, and then the closing sequence that we got with Swerve and Samoa Joe and Swerve's insane swerve stomp onto like 6 or 8 security guards and just having them all fall like bowling pins. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I thought that was a really, really cool moment. I thought that was a cool spot. All that kind of being said, everything else on this show just didn't do it for me. Did not get me interested. And honestly, I'm so checked out on this product right now, and it frustrates me because I want to be invested. You and I invest a lot of time watching all of this wrestling content so we can put these shows together, so we can go to do these predictions that we're going to do. And it is frustrating to me that we sometimes are just kind of forced to do things that we don't necessarily want to do. Like, I don't want to watch a Dynamite on Wednesday nights. I'd much rather watch anything else. I'll let you know, I'm a huge bowling fan. And this week, the World Series of Bowling was going on, and you had multiple different championships taking place throughout the week, and it was all taking place in Allen Park at Thunderbolt Lanes. I wanted to go and watch that. When it was being televised, I wanted to watch it on TV because I wasn't there. And I couldn't because I have to watch this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And we watch this, for the most part, we watch the majority of this stuff in real time. Every now and then we might DVR it, but we get caught up as the night moves along because we're constantly texting each other and talking about what's unfolding. And I don't think you and I exchanged a text message during this program because there was nothing to text about.
Right.
And that kind of
right.
that tells you what the program is.
Yeah. And what you're seeing is that it's just Tony Khan throwing together dream matches. And it's great. But, man, it's wild to think that with a show that featured Will Ospreay, Okada, Mercedes Moné, the star power, they're still not moving the needle. And what does that say? It kind of lends to the opinion that, hey, AEW now is battling a perception problem that, they've run into WWE, and WWE super kicked them. And what Tony Khan has done has been kind of, in a way, to be friends with the talent and not done enough. And look, I'll say this. They do put on a lot of great matches. The matches in the ring that take place are okay. It's just, though, when you do it week after week without any investment emotionally, you're just like, okay, I can just fast forward through it. Oh, it's another Tony Storm match. Okay. But you need to have a little bit. And what I do care about the individuals that do go to the ring. But what I'm saying is that you have not done enough with character development. You've buried too many guys. Like, look, Miro's back and House of Black is back, but do you feel like it's going anywhere? Like, do you feel like it's heading to a title? It's heading like to it kind of feels like a lot of middle of the road feuds that kind of just fizzle without any impactful endings. Like, there's nothing from it. There's nothing that would lend you to say, oh, okay, in the future, this could happen. Or it just kind of like, okay, I got this, and now we go to the next thing. It's not interwoven in a good way. And so I guess the best way to put it is, creatively, they've hit a wall. And I think they need to use a different booker. And that's just the way it is. They need to use one of the boys. Tony Khan has, in a way, kind of fallen prey to what a lot of bookers do, which is, hey, you're not one of the boys. I think one of the boys is the best way to book a company. And I think they should take up Bully Ray's offer and just, hey, he said, I'll do it for free. If some guy says he'll book your company for free, you call his ass up and say, okay, tell some stories. And right away, you know that there'll be some stories that are told that are interesting. But I will say this, not to be overly negative. The one storyline that is starting to resonate a little bit is Hook and Chris Jericho. That is a little interesting in saying, okay, Hook defending his dad from Chris Jericho, who kept taking shots at Taz, which was kind of funny in that you kept having Taz taking the strays from Chris Jericho, who's standing right next to him, and then Hook eventually whoops his ass. But you're hearing whispers that the big dog company might be liking him, so it might not last all that long. So let's just wait and see. And I think the other thing, too, that people are saying that AEW is struggling with is they're just declaring themselves the baddest of the bad when they clearly are the number 2 company in the world. And they're not competing with WWE when WWE is on their 3rd or 4th $1 billion deal, and they just had WrestleMania, sell out tickets at that level. AEW is far behind, and they just need to keep focusing on themselves and stop bringing up WWE in every kind of show that they do.
Yeah, I agree with you. At a certain point, you need to worry about your own business and not so much worry about what you've got going on with your competition. You need to do your own thing and kind of keep the competition out of your mouth. Look, let's. I think you said something really important there. When you talk about a company that is kind of trying to find its way, and you've got a booker who had a hot stretch. Like, if you go back and you look at when AEW started, and you looked at when Tony Khan first started booking things and he had the pencil, it was probably about a good 4 or 5 year run. And it was good stuff. Like, there was a point where we were talking about AEW as the best show in wrestling, better than WWE. What happens is, and just kind of throughout history, you generally get these ebbs and flows. You'll get a 5 year run, you'll get a 6 year run, maybe a 7 year run of great creative. Then it kind of goes in the tank. And then you got to kind of figure some stuff out, and you got to reinvent some things, because what happens is you end up sticking to these same tried and true storylines that you just kind of keep running. And what happens is everybody gets bored with it. Everybody knows how it's going to go. That's how we're able to predict a lot of these matches, and we're able to predict a lot of what's going to take place, because you end up learning what the booker's doing, and they don't throw you any curveballs, and they don't keep you on your feet. I think at this point, Tony Khan has done a decent enough job for being a guy who is totally new to wrestling, right? Like, yeah, he was a wrestling fan, but he wasn't inside in wrestling. And he did a really good job for a couple of years. I think he has hit this wall where he doesn't really know how to bounce back or how to parlay from that. So I think when a guy like a Bully Ray comes in and says, hey, I'll book your shit for free. I want you to succeed. I want you to do well. Call me. I think you have to take a man like that up on his offer. You have to take a man up like that on his call and say, okay, well, what do you got for me? On top of it, I think Bully Ray is probably the most perfect person to go into that type of a locker room and be able to do things. Bully Ray is not intimidated by anybody. Bully Ray has a brain for the game and is a guy who will basically sit you down and tell you what's going on. And if you're trying to put a match together, the guy is a genius. He's done it all over the place. He's done it at ECW where you're using 47 tables to get your point across. And then he's gone to WWE, and instead of using 47 tables, they use one table. And you get more impact out of that one table. On top of that, you save your body, and you're able to tell a more conclusive, more in-depth story. I think having him in your circle and having him with your pencil is probably the best move you could make. It would only make sense to have a guy like that kind of take over and do your booking. But Tony Khan, they had a press conference, and on the press conference, Tony Khan says, no, I'm not giving up my booking. I'm going to keep doing this, and, I'm having too much fun doing it. Well, I'm glad you're having fun. We are struggling to watch your product, and I do not know what's going to happen with your TV. And if you look at it, I really think a lot of it's just oversaturation. When AEW first started, they had a couple of pay-per-views a year. That was kind of the thing. And then from the pay-per-views, it evolved into having Dynasty, which is a 2-hour program. And then from that, they added Rampage. So now you've got you have like 4 pay-per-views a year, you've got a 2-hour program, and now you've got an extra hour program. And then once they added Collision, you went from having 4 pay-per-views to now you have 12 pay-per-views. You've got a 2-hour program on a Wednesday. You've got a 1-hour program on a Friday. And then you've got another 2-hour program on a Saturday. So weekly content, you've got at least 5 hours. And these pay-per-views are anywhere from 5 to 6 hours, and you're doing these once a month. It becomes a ton of content that you have to constantly produce. It becomes difficult. You're now looking at almost 400 hours of content that they have to take care of, and you just don't have that. It's tough to do stuff like that. So I think at some point you have to get somebody else in there to kind of take over creative, to kind of run it, because Tony Khan needs to be more worried about the finances, worry about the money, worry about the next big deal that this company needs to survive, and let somebody else worry about the day-to-day creative. All right, let's get into predictions. That's enough bagging on this product. Don't even mean to be that way with bagging on it. It's just these are honest opinions from us. Our Dynasty predictions. Here we go. This is our 0-hour pre-show. We got the Bullet Club, Jay White, Austin Gunn, and Colton Gunn. They are the Ring of Honor Trios champions, taking on the Acclaim, Anthony Bowens and Matt Caster and Badass Billy Gunn. They are the AEW Trios champions. This is a winner-take-all match for the AEW World Trios Championships and the ROH World Six-Man Tag Team Championships. We're going to be getting rid of 3 belts amongst these 2 companies. We'll end up combining and going back down to just 3 total titles instead of having 6 total titles here. Who do you have winning this? You have the Bullet Club Gold, or do you have the Acclaim walking away with the belts?
Has to be Bullet Club Gold, in my opinion. You have Jay White, and, I think that when you see the star caliber of Jay White, you kind of, and also, too, part of the reason why the perception is wrong about AEW, the part of the reason why the hatred is grown is that you have top stars, and when they go to AEW, it seems like their stars have dimmed. Jay White is a star, so he's not to be taking losses. So he's got to unify and get these belts. So I give it to the Bullet Club.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you 100%. You have a guy like Jay White who is absolutely incredible, and you've done a bad job really getting him over. When he was in New Japan, he was white hot. When he was making guest appearances on your program, he was white hot. When he signed his deal to you, next thing you know, he's not even close to being lukewarm. So what do you do here? You get him a decent enough win here. I know it's in the pre-show. It's whatever. At some point, you're going to have to get this guy revved up again. I think this is a way you can kind of get it started. I'm going Bullet Club Gold along with you. Next, we've got Hook defending his FTW championship against Chris Jericho. I think there's going to be some shenanigans here. I think Chris Jericho might do something, but I'm going to go Hook. I think at a certain point, Chris Jericho has to go away for a little bit. A lot of his stuff, I know you said this was interesting. I find Chris Jericho right now, and you know he's my favorite wrestler of all time. I find Chris Jericho to be obnoxious on television, and not obnoxious in a heel sort of way, just obnoxious that you're sucking up airtime and you're cooling out a guy like Hook. Hook was, again, another guy who was white hot. And at this moment in time, his star is dimming. I know that he's looking at possibly going to WWE, and I'm cool with that. I think that'd be a fantastic move for him. But I think Hook needs to get the win here. I think Chris Jericho needs to go away for a little bit. I said that months ago. I'm going to say it again. I got Hook winning this match.
As do I, man. It's going to be great to see. I think that you establish Hook as a nasty monster, and what a way to do it at the pay-per-view. It's going to be a good match. I'm looking forward to that one.
For sure. Dream match, Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson. I think this is going to be a fantastic match. I think this is going to possibly be the match of the night, dare I say. Actually, I don't even say possibly. This is going to be the match of the night. This is going to be fantastic. You've got a mat technician in Bryan Danielson, and you've got a high flyer like Will Ospreay. Styles make matches. Styles make great matches even greater. This is going to be a fantastic match. I've got Will Ospreay winning this one, but this is going to be absolutely fantastic. Don't be surprised if maybe the Don Callis family and maybe Blackpool Combat Club get involved here, and maybe this is where we start to see, you've already starting to see some fracturing with Will Ospreay and the Don Callis family. Maybe we see more of that here. I've got Will Ospreay winning this match.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be the match of the night. Both superstars doing their thing. Holy cow. It's going to be special, cuz at the highest level, it's going to be really special. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be a very much back and forth match with false finishes. The crowd will love it with Will Ospreay winning.
All right, next match. We've got the Young Bucks versus FTR. This is a tournament final ladder match for the vacant AEW World Tag Team Championships. How do you see this one playing out?
Oh, the vacant tag team championship match, huh? It's the build-up's been interesting. I'm not sure yet where I see the how this one could go. There's a lot of different ways to do it because you see the performers, you see the way in which the tag division could go. Let me get your sense first, and then I'll put my organized thoughts together in terms of what I think finality. Because to me, it's all over the place. I could really see. I'm torn on this one. This is the only one that I had a question mark in my notes.
Yeah, this one could go either way. But the way I see this playing out, I think the Young Bucks win this match.
Okay.
And I think you get a return of Jack Perry. I think Jack Perry plays a role in this. They've been shouting Jack Perry out on television for a little bit now. Jack Perry obviously had the issues with CM Punk. FTR has the relationship with CM Punk. They showed the video for a reason. There's been a lot of mention of Jack Perry. I think the scapegoat comes back, and I think he is a part of whatever they're doing with this new elite. I think he's going to be incorporated into it, and I think he plays a role in this match. And I've got the Young Bucks winning.
See, here's the problem, is that FTR is a badass team, right? And it kind of feels like they've gone the way of WWE, where it feels like they hit a certain level and then they just get back down, but back up, back down. They just can't transcend that. And a win here would probably do that. But you're right. It feels like now they're telling the story of the EVPs with the Young Bucks. But I don't think I like the story. It's like, we knew you were EVPs. We knew it feels like cheap heat. It's like, I don't need to see Tony Khan with the helmet, with the headset on, and I don't need to see the Young Bucks back there. And for those that, are looking at it, the Young Bucks used the CM Punk thing as an angle to explain why they lost in England, which is kind of weird because they weren't back there at all. That the reason you said that they lost was because they couldn't pray and get into their routine. I would have said something. I would have said something like that, but said something different. Would have been like, we had to, address a matter and look at and talk to lawyers and waste our time, as opposed to getting ready or scouting film or our normal. You could just say our normal pre-match routine. To me, what I'm torn is I don't want to see the Young Bucks win it because I think FTR is a better team, but you're absolutely right. We've talked about it. We all expect the return of Jack Perry and to add to this feud. So you're right. But to me, I would book it where FTR wins it, but it's going to be the Young Bucks winning it, no doubt.
All right. Our next match, we've got Julia Hart defending her AEW TBS championship in a house rules match against Willow Nightingale. How do you see this one playing out? Willow Nightingale was beat up on Wednesday night. Julia Hart doing some of her best work. Do you take the strap off of Julia Hart?
No, you do not. She's doing great stuff. Willow Nightingale is great, but she's got to take more of the beatings. So to me, it's Julia Hart all the way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be Julia Hart as well. And look, I think if you want to throw a little monkey wrench in here, I think Chris Statlander could be the one taking everybody out. Chris Statlander could be the one taking out Mercedes Moné. Chris Statlander could have been the one who took out Willow Nightingale. And if you remember, Trent took out Orange. There was a meeting between the two, between Trent and Chris Statlander in the back. Remember, they're all part of the same friend group. So maybe there's a little something going on there. Maybe it's Chris Statlander who's doing some of these things, and maybe she hurts Willow Nightingale here. So we'll see what happens, but I've got Julia Hart retaining. Again, she's been doing some fantastic work. She looks the part. She's really coming to her own. Next, we've got Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe versus the House of Black. What do we do here? I love Eddie Kingston. I think Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge, is great. Mark Briscoe, I think, is always fun to watch. House of Black, I haven't been interested in probably 2.5 years. I don't know what to do with this match. I'm gonna say Adam Copeland and Eddie Kingston because I'm huge fans of Eddie Kingston. So that's who I'm going with here. I have no idea, man.
Yeah, I think you handed me the win here because I'm going with House of Black. You have to elevate them. If they don't, I think it might, put the nail in the coffin and cement those that said, look, House of Black was terribly wrong to leave WWE, and that they're probably, if they lose, probably they're starting to start texting because there's no way that you could be happy if you're the House of Black and you're getting built. It's a trios match. You got to win. You got to establish yourself as dominant. It doesn't matter if Adam Copeland loses in a trios match. It doesn't matter at all. So give me House of Black, and they got to have the baddest 2024 of all time.
You're right. I might have handed you the win there, but I have no idea what to do here with this match. Our next match, we've got Timeless Toni Storm defending against Thunder Rosa. This is for the AEW Women's World Championship. Who do you have winning this match?
Man, Thunder Rosa has been doing her thing, huh? Do you have a major title change at a pay-per-view? No, not yet. I think Thunder Rosa could be next in line, but Toni Storm is still. You gotta keep the women's title strong, and you can't be having it willy-nilly back and forth. And if it moves forward, you probably want to see Toni Storm against the top and Mercedes Moné moving down the line. So Thunder Rosa is just great in the chase, and she did herself well by getting mic time and being aggressive and doing some good things. But to me, it's Timeless Toni Storm that wins.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is some of the best work that we're seeing from Toni Storm. I think there's also another story going on with Mariah May on the outside of whatever she's got going on. I think Thunder Rosa has done a good enough job getting herself back into this title picture, and I think she's done a good enough job getting herself basically reintroduced to the AEW world after being away for such a long time with her back injury and then coming back and kind of being relegated to Collision. So I think Thunder Rosa is doing a really nice job. I just don't think it's time yet. So I've got Toni Storm winning. Kazuchika Okada defending his AEW Continental Championship against Pac. I'll answer for both of us. I think Okada wins this.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great match. Okada, baby.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fantastic match as well. Next match, we've got Roderick Strong defending his AEW International Championship against his best friend, Kyle O'Reilly. I think Roderick Strong wins this. I think it'll be an interesting match. I think what you have to do is you got to beat down Kyle O'Reilly a little bit to get him to come to your team with the the undisputed, not undisputed elites. It's the undisputed Kingdom. So you got to beat down Kyle O'Reilly a little bit. I think Roderick Strong does that. So I'm going to go with Roderick Strong with the win.
Yeah, it's going to be a good match. This one has a sneaky chance to be one in which the crowd gets into heavily. And it'll be a technical match that has a lot of opportunity to have good spots as well. It'll be a good psychological match as well with these two guys that know each other from a long time. Roderick Strong, baby, retains.
All right. It all comes down to this. This is your main event. We've got Samoa Joe taking on Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship. We said a while ago that we felt like Swerve probably should have won in the trios match that they had. We said a while ago that Swerve has been incredibly hot. Feel like he should be a champion, but you just put the belt on Joe. Well, Joe's had a couple of defenses, and Joe's done a good enough job. I think now is the time where you take that belt off of Joe. I think it's Swerve's belt. I think it's Swerve's house. I think Swerve wins this match and is your new AEW World Champion.
And it does suck maybe for Samoa Joe that a lot of people will say that this reign is probably part of the reason why he doesn't draw. Like he's the better as a heel. He doesn't draw. Like would you put down the bowling ball that you seem to love to go see Samoa Joe at LCA? No, I wouldn't do that. I think I'd go see him maybe for an autograph, chit-chat with him a little bit. But would I go see Samoa Joe? I probably would go with you to Allen Park and watch the guys bowl and be like, God damn it, you didn't get the 7-10 split. This is easy. But I would pay to see Swerve. I would pay just to see the entrance. I think Nani's entrance, man, I watch it every week. And every single time, I'm like, God dang it, don't cut away from it. They always cut away from it before he does the jumping twirl. I'm like, God damn it, what you got to do, let Nani come out first. He does the swerve when I drive, puts his hands in the air. You let Swerve Strickland come out. You let Nani dance all in one shot. Don't go to the crowd. It's a beautiful shot. They've done it once or twice. It's a beautiful shot when it's one continuous shot on Nani. You let him jump around, get into the flow, get back. The second time, okay, the producer, the second time he goes into the swerve and I drive, then you go to the fans doing it. You don't keep cutting it out because I want to see the Nani dance, damn it. So I would pay to see Swerve Strickland win it. It's just clear. It's sad to say, we don't want to be overly negative, but Samoa Joe is bad for business. He doesn't draw. And it's an indictment. Swerve at least probably could get you extra 500, 1,500 tickets with a good feud and having him be the champion. So if he doesn't leave as the champion, I think it will start to see maybe even the decline of tickets from 3,000 to 1,500 because you don't have a strong champion. It sucks. Samoa Joe is deserving of it. It's one of those things where I could see where Tony Khan has the sentimental heart to say, okay, from MJF we go to Samoa Joe, but it's got to be just a transitional run. You got to give the belt to the man and let him run with the company and see if you can get back over at least 5,000 at your live events. Come on now. Swerve Strickland, baby.
I think with Joe, Joe is a callback to an old-time wrestler, right? He is a callback to vintage champions, right? There's more money to be made with Joe when Joe is chasing, especially in this newer world of wrestling where you have guys like Strickland who are willing to kind of push boundaries, push limits, and try to reinvent stuff. Joe he's ground and pound, he's muscle. There's nothing really exciting or flashy about Joe. What Joe brings is intensity. That's what he is. That is that old school wrestling mentality. And I think that's why there's not necessarily that fire with Joe. Joe is more intriguing as the guy doing the chasing instead of being the guy who's being chased. All right, so really quickly to recount, we both have Swerve being your new AEW World Champ. We both have Roddy retaining his International Championship. We both have Okada winning his Continental Championship. We both have Timeless Toni Storm retaining her Women's World Championship. Wow, we have like 0 title matches changing hands on this card. What were we doing? You've got House of Black winning. I've got Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe winning. That could be the deciding factor right there. We both have Julia Hart retaining. We both have the Young Bucks becoming our new AEW World Tag Team Champions. We think maybe that Jack Perry might play a role. We both have Will Ospreay beating Bryan Danielson. We both have Hook retaining his belt. And then we have the Bullet Club Gold combining all the trios titles in AEW and ROH, beating the Acclaimed and Badass Billy Gunn. Should be an interesting card. Should be a long card. Prepare for another 6-hour pay-per-view. When we look at calling the card, I lead you by 2 points. It's 2.5 to a half a point, and that's coming off the heels of WrestleMania last week. Real quick, before we get into news and notes, what was your show of the week?
To me, it was, I think, SmackDown. I think that when you have the violence of Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa, when you have the great match with AJ Styles and LA Knight, and the reveal of the most beautiful tag belts in the history of the company, SmackDown, show of the week.
I agree with you. I'm going to go with SmackDown as well. SmackDown will get the point for us. You ready for some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
Could Vince McMahon be coming back to wrestling? McMahon is currently liquidating all of his TKO stock and assets. McMahon registered all of his remaining stock shares for sale, and when they do get sold, he'll have absolutely zero affiliation or connection with TKO and WWE. The rumors and speculation are that McMahon may be in the process of setting up a rival promotion to challenge WWE and AEW. If he does, it seems like a non-compete clause in his contract means he would have to wait until January 26th of 2025. That's a year after he resigned from the sex trafficking allegations. Some of the motivating factors are the thought process that Vince set up the bloodline, Vince chose Roman, and Vince decided not to have Cody win last year at WrestleMania 39, setting up one of the most profitable WrestleManias in WWE history. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer spoke to individuals in the business to get their takes on whether McMahon would do such a thing. And according to Meltzer, the majority of the people he talked to believe McMahon is completely done with the wrestling business due to his age, reputation, and lack of openings. Right now, it would be very hard to get a TV deal and sponsors on board. He does already have an endless amount of money, though, so the belief among some is that if he was younger, he would give it a go. Meltzer also believes that there would be very few people even willing to join McMahon working on a startup, especially when WWE and AEW are stable options. One of the most powerful players behind the scene told Meltzer that they felt there's a good chance McMahon will start something when he's legally able to because it was such a major part of his life for so long. The person believes enough contracts come up every year that McMahon has enough money to be formidable. People in WWE, even though most don't think he'll try, acknowledge that if he does try, he will be formidable. And someone who worked with McMahon really until the end was quoted as saying he's not the Vince he once was, but he'd still be a dangerous competitor. So it'll be interesting to see what Vince does now that he's basically liquidating everything and kind of moving on to the next chapter of his life. Now, you cannot say this person on WWE TV. During Fightful's NXT post-show this week, Corey Brennan reported that there's a directive right now not to mention Drew Gulak. That is something I can say with absolute certainty, he said. They don't want to bring attention to it. Despite not wanting to bring attention to it, they have given that storyline explanation for why they're not seeing him and possibly won't see him again. Brennan also reported that he was told Gulak won't be back for a while, if at all. On April 2nd, former WWE star Ronda Rousey appeared for an interview with News Nation regarding alleged sexual misconduct and the culture surrounding it in WWE. During the interview, Rousey implicated Gulak and told a story about him grabbing her sweatpants string as he walked by. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer provided an update on his status, noting that he doesn't know that Gulak has been fired yet, but people in the company believe he probably will be. Meltzer said, "What I was told was that the witnesses were not conclusive. It was one person's word against another, but Gulak was bad publicity, so he got whacked. I don't know that he's been fired, but when I ask, it's like if he hasn't been, he probably will be. It's not looking good for him. Let's put it that way." Now, this AEW star is planning on calling it quits very soon. During an interview with Brandon Walker on Mostly Sports, Adam Copeland discussed his career and when he plans to hang up his boots. Copeland said, "I don't want to be that guy who sticks around to the point where a young guy looks at the sheet and goes, okay, I have to wrestle him tonight. I don't want to be that guy. I want young guys to still be excited if they're going to hop in there with me. I figure maybe I'll have a year and a half left, give or take. Hopefully I've gotten all the yaz out by that point." Adam Copeland has been enjoying a career resurgence, with the second half of his career kicking off when he returned after a 9-year hiatus from the ring at WWE's Royal Rumble in 2020. Before his initial retirement in 2011, Copeland had accomplished a great deal as a former multi-time WWE World Champion and a WWE Hall of Famer. Copeland has since left WWE and signed with AEW in October of 2023. 6 months later, he is the reigning TNT champion after defeating his real-life best friend, Christian Cage. Now, in some sad news, Maybe. It was recently reported that the Maharaja and Xia Li have been released. This basically occurred on Friday, if I'm correct. This is all I'm kind of reading about this as we're kind of doing the show right now. Xia Li took to Twitter and posted, "Thank you, WWE. Thank you, Triple H. Thank you, WWE Universe." And she wrote a very long and lengthy message on X. The Maharaja, Jinder Mahal, put, "I quit, Maharaja out." He also posted something a little earlier that basically said 90 days away. So Jinder Mahal out of WWE and Xia Li also released from WWE. Now, in some happier news, these AEW stars are having a baby. In a moment of real-life turn kayfabe, Ruby Soho announced to Angelo Parker that they're having a baby. The angle was taped after Wednesday night's Dynamite and is set to air for this week's Rampage on Saturday, April 20th. So congrats to the two AEW stars on the addition of their family. That's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes. You think the Maharaja ends up in AEW?
The modern day Maharaja. Yes, absolutely. It's crazy that he kicked off the Cody Rock situation in the ring. Unfortunately, Seth got hurt wrestling Jinder Mahal, former world champion. He got into it with Tony Khan. He went viral, and WWE did nothing with it. And it's unfortunate. Veer Mahan has come 40 times, and I guess his time to leave is now here. I think that they should. I would be surprised if Tony Khan doesn't take all four. Great talent, great potential, and you have the opportunity to tell a good story with Jinder Mahal when you highlight him the right way as a badass heel and make him more valuable. 37 years old, perfect time to get him. And pay attention.
Guy's got a great physique too, and
Yes.
can cut promos.
Pay attention to Drew McIntyre. Still reportedly has not signed his contract, so we'll see.
Correct. Becky Lynch as well.
Does Tony Khan drive up the price for these two potential free agents? We'll see. Make sure to follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSGROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything that we've said today, hit us up. We'd love to hear it. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. Can't wait to come back next week, recap what Dynasty came out to be. Does Swerve Strickland finally get the belt? Does Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson compete to be in the conversation for Match of the Year? Can't wait to watch it. Come back next week for the latest and greatest edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.